When I asked my girlfriend why she didn't invite me to her family function, I expected an awkward explanation, maybe even an apology. Instead, she slammed her phone onto the table, stood up, and shouted, "Because you don't belong there." The words hit harder than I could have imagined. The busy coffee shop around us suddenly felt silent. Conversations faded into the background as I stared at her, trying to understand whether I'd heard correctly. "What do you mean?" I asked quietly. She crossed her arms, refusing to meet my eyes. "You always make everything about yourself," she snapped. "If you had come, everyone would have asked questions, and I didn't want to deal with that." I blinked in disbelief. "We've been together for 3 years," I reminded her. "Your cousins know me. Your uncle knows me. I've met your parents dozens of times." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" She sighed dramatically, as though I were the one making life difficult. "My relatives expect certain things. They ask about marriage, jobs, money. I didn't want to answer them. I leaned back in my chair. "So instead of telling them the truth, you pretended I didn't exist?" She stayed silent. That silence hurt more than the shouting. For months I had supported her through everything. When she lost her job, I stayed up late helping her rewrite her resume. When her grandmother became ill, I drove her to the hospital almost every day. When she doubted herself, I reminded her how capable she was. Not because I expected anything in return, because I loved her. Yet, when one important family gathering came along, I was someone she wanted to hide. "I wasn't hiding you," she said, finally breaking the silence. "It feels exactly like that." She rubbed her forehead. "You wouldn't understand." "Then help me understand." Another long pause followed. Finally, her voice became quieter. "My aunt's daughter just got engaged to a doctor. My parents keep comparing me to everyone else. They ask when I'm getting married, whether my boyfriend earns enough, whether we're buying a house. Every family event turns into an interview." I nodded slowly. "I know that's stressful. You don't know how judgmental they are." "Maybe not. But shutting me out wasn't the answer." She looked down at the table. "I thought it would be easier." "Easier for who?" She didn't answer. The truth had finally settled between us. It had been easier for her. She didn't have to explain our relationship. She didn't have to defend me. She didn't have to stand beside me when uncomfortable questions came. Instead, she simply erased me for one evening. "I spent all day wondering why you weren't answering my messages," I said. "Then I saw your cousin's photos online." Her eyes widened. "You saw them?" "Every single one. Photos of smiling relatives. Group pictures. Celebrations. Even one with an empty chair beside her that, for a moment, made me wonder if she had ever considered inviting me. I kept thinking maybe there was some mistake," I admitted. "Maybe the invitation got lost. Maybe only immediate family attended." She whispered, "I'm sorry." For the first time that afternoon, her anger disappeared. In its place was guilt. "I was embarrassed," she confessed. "Of me?" "No." "Then what?" "Of disappointing everyone." I frowned. "You've never disappointed me." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I disappoint my parents all the time." I reached across the table but stopped halfway. Not because I didn't want to comfort her. Because I wasn't sure if I still had the right to. "You know what's strange?" I said. "What?" "If you had simply told me you were scared about their questions, I would have understood." She looked up. "I would have even suggested that you go alone." "You would?" "Of course." She covered her face with both hands. "I thought you'd be angry." "I am." She nodded. "But not because you went." She slowly lowered her hands. "I'm angry because you never gave me the chance to stand beside you." Tears continued falling as she whispered, "I didn't think of it that way." Relationships weren't tested during vacations or candlelit dinners. They were tested in uncomfortable moments. When families judged. When life became complicated. When standing beside someone required courage. "You deserve someone who's proud of you," she said softly. I looked at her for several seconds before answering. "No." She frowned. "I deserve someone who's honest with me." The difference mattered. Nobody had a perfect family. Nobody escaped judgment forever. But honesty was always a choice. She nodded through her tears. "I understand." I stood, picked up my jacket, and placed some money on the table for the untouched coffees. As I turned to leave, she called my name. "I'm really sorry." I stopped, but didn't turn around immediately. "I believe you," I replied. Then I faced her one last time. But trust doesn't disappear because people make mistakes. It disappears when they decide you're easier to hide than to defend. Her eyes filled with fresh tears. I walked out into the cool evening air, unsure whether our relationship had just ended or simply reached the moment where the truth could no longer be ignored. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't asking why she hadn't invited me. I already knew the answer. The real question was whether love could survive after someone made you feel like a secret. And neither of us had the answer to that yet.